Welcome to the House Medium. I'm Adele Levine, your House Medium. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you might notice that I'm going for a little bit of 80s vibe. Got my little cassette tape earring. I got my 80s style. A little loud. I got my little 80s style hair. That's kind of how I used to wear my hair, maybe. On the side, I got a little tinsel in my hair. If you're not watching my YouTube channel, go check it out. You can see my 80s look going down memory lane. No. Screech! Don't want to go back. So anyway, welcome to the House Medium. I'm Adele Levine, your House Medium. I was just looking at myself going, I have this tinsel in my hair. I have an 80s I have a cassette player for an earring. My hair is a little bit out of control. I feel like it immediately dates me. Just saying. And then you throw on a little bit of synthesizer and we're right back. We're right back into Aqua Net. Horrible people doing horrible things. Speaking of which, what the hell happened to Gen Xers? Some of the Gen Xers, you have all been disappointing in becoming kind of boomer-ish. Sorry, boomers. Not the good boomers. Listen, I'm calling out my Gen X people and saying they're kind of sounding like, oof, I don't know, really negative. Anyway, we're not here to talk about generations. We're here to talk about paranormal. We're also here to talk about other things because it just brought me to, some things I want to share with you. And I wrote it down. Let me check my list. What do I have here? What do I have on my list here? Put down on my iPad. Yes, I'm not outdated where I said pen and pencil. Oh, that's right. We have a couple of things to talk about. Let's go into the Medium Brew Cafe. Now, I am excited to go into the Medium Brew Cafe with you and bring to you a couple of things. One, I don't have a drink. I just have water. Sorry to disappoint everybody. I'm just drinking water. However, I did do some baking. And here is, if you're, again, watching on YouTube, is my... trying to get a good shot of it. It's not a good shot of it. Here is my chocolate cheesecake. Here, I'll take it out. I'll pick it out. I'll pick it up. This is my chocolate cheesecake. I made this by hand with even the frosting. And we are going to be having that in my Medium Brew Cafe. Let me get a little piece so you can see if you're watching. I don't like eating on camera. I don't like watching people eat. Let alone... Hold on. I gotta quiet down the cafe. They were getting a little rowdy. This is so good. Yes, I want to brag. Oreo cookie crust. See that? Chocolate in the cheesecake. Chocolate whipped cream, which you make with powdered sugar and everything. I gotta take another bite, but I'm gonna hide my face. So good. This is why... This is why I can't bake a lot, because I'll gain 200 pounds. Because I'll just eat everything I bake. I baked this for my son's birthday. Some of you might have noticed I gotta put lipstick back on, so now if you're watching again on YouTube, you're gonna see me put lipstick on. I'm just revealing everything here. It was his birthday, so I made... he loves cheesecake, but then I made chocolate cheesecake one day, and he was like, "This is it. This is it." So I made him a chocolate cheesecake pre-game birthday, so we can have that for breakfast. Duh. And I baked some cookies for some other family members. I'm like, you know what? I can't be baking all these things because then I want to eat them all. I'm a sweet tooth person if you haven't noticed. Okay, so there's that. We are adding that to our menu to the Medium Brew Cafe. My chocolate chip cookies, my chocolate cheesecake, the regular cheesecake, and then I'm going to venture it on my lemon bars. You guys keeping track of the menu? Because I need you to, come up with the pricing and everything. And we'll see what else. Oh, bagels. I won't make the bagels though. I'm not into making bread and things like this. But as far as drink goes, of course, we're going to have caramel lattes. We're going to have mochas, all this type of, just regular coffee, good coffee. But I wanted to bring up something and my next guest talked about. Her name is Julene. I got it right. All I did was think in my head, Jolene, 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 Jolene. Just add a U, Julene. And we'll talk about her special name in a minute. You'll hear me talk to her. Julene is from Utah, and so we got to talking about swigs. Now, you guys, I'm gonna move my hair because I tried to do the 80 style, but it's irritating me. We talked about swigs, which is dirty soda. If you don't know what this is, it's a Utah thing because Mormons don't believe in drinking caffeine. Some reason in cold drinks it's okay if it's soda, but if it's coffee and iced coffee. But in the Medium Brew Cafe, we gotta have dirty soda for sure. But we're also gonna have iced coffee. Now, as somebody who was raised Adventist, and I was also raised not allowed to drink caffeine, but it included all caffeine. My hair is still bothering me. It included all caffeine. It included soda. So I grew up drinking coffee, root beer and Sprite. A lot of people don't realize this, but Sprite. Oh my shirt's messed up. Okay, I'm getting it together. If you're watching this, hopefully on YouTube, you're just listening. Yes, a lot of people don't realize Sprite and 7-Up doesn't have caffeine because when I was growing up, people would say, "Oh, I thought you couldn't drink soda," and I said, "Oh, I can because this doesn't have caffeine." People don't realize if you're just raised on Coke, you're just raised like a normal person, you don't pay attention. However, we were talking about it, and Jason, again, shout out to Jason if you're listening. He took me to Swigs and introduced me to a whole land. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get a 12 ounce. Basically, they take soda and they add coconut flavoring, and they do this mixture of flavorings to the soda. And it is damn good. It is addicting. It would be more addicting than coffee because you drink it down so quick you don't even realize it. And of course, here in LA, I'm sure they do this in Utah because I know Utah people are doing this. Would add a little bit of, liquor as Willy Wonka says, candy's dandy, but liquor's quicker. So I can only see that happening quite a bit here, but I hope they bring a Swigs to us soon. So we're going to add that to the Medium Brew Cafe. I want to announce that. Also, I'm going to get to reading because this is a long one, so I better get to reading. She has several stories, and we are stories. No, I promise you, I didn't add any liquor to my water. I didn't. This really is just water. But she, this is Fae, this is Fairy, this is Leprechaun. It's right perfect in going into St. Patrick's season. Is it a season? I didn't even know it was coming up, just to be honest. But magical fairy, Fairyland. And with that said, we had several problems recording this. And we decided we're blaming it on the fairies. So before we totally leave, well, we're going to leave the Medium Brew Cafe, but I have one more thing.
23 Skidoo, 24, and Aunt Betty says.
Yes, here we go.
23
One more
Skidoo,
time
24,
for Aunt Betty.
And Aunt Betty says.
I was talking to Aunt Betty today, and she, let's just put this way. Aunt Betty, remember, she's an Adventist and she's a Christian. So I was talking to her about like her going through all this stuff that she's gone through in life and everything that's going on in the world. And does she have advice? And she kept going, yes, the Bible has spoken of this in Revelations. And I'm like, any other advice besides that the Bible has spoken of this? And she just says, you can't, out of all the things she's gone through, she says you have to keep learning because she says she reads all the time. And she says that, none of her friends, and no, she doesn't know anybody who is still alive. And that trippy. She's like, yeah, everybody I know, my age is all gone. And she goes, you know what caused it? They just stopped trying. They stopped learning. They stopped trying. They stopped trying to understand things. They stopped trying to grow. They just stopped trying. So she says, even if of course she's Christian first, Adventists believe in Revelations, the end of times, all of that, right? So besides that, once I got her through, like, okay, besides all that, what do you have to say to people to help them out? And she says this, that you have to always keep learning, you always have to keep fighting, you always have to keep informed, and don't get bitter. She said, if you get bitter, that's how she said, how I feel like the people I knew died is because they got bitter and they stopped learning and they stopped growing. She goes, that's how you grow old. And I agree with Aunt Betty. All right. So, and if you want to look up, Revelations, if you've never been in the Bible, it's quite a doozy. And I'm fixing my hair again, sorry. Each religion has its take on it. Adventist one is interesting. It's interesting. I won't get into it, but maybe another time. Let's get into fairies. I'd rather get into fae and the Feyland. So here we go. Hey Adela. I recently found your podcast and have been listening for a few months, and I love it. Thank you, Julene. I think it started listening just after Halloween, and I'm so sad I missed you coming here to Utah. Me too, to that seance a few months ago. Maybe I'll catch it next year. I live in Lee, Utah, and I am an ex-Mormon. You know what? I forgot to talk to her about this, so I'm so glad. I reread these, but yes, it makes sense because we talked about Mormon stuff, so definitely makes sense she's ex-Mormon. Anyway, I have a few different paranormal stories I'd love to get your take on. For starters, I thought I'd tell you one. Oh, wait, I thought I'd tell you my stories that I think could be categorized as fairy sighting. I saw once what I've come to realize would be considered a fairy. This is her getting. She kind of labels the different ones, if that makes sense. I'm sure that makes sense. I was probably around 12, 13 years old, and I was sitting in the bedroom of my child home, facing the open doorway, lost in thought, when suddenly a small creature ran by the doorway out in the hall. Ooh. Suddenly creature ran by in the doorway in the hall. It was about 8 to 10 inches tall, had stick figure body like a dandelion puff head. It kind of seemed to have light coming from it or around it, but not a lot of light. It ran gracefully like a ballerina with its arms sort of hanging back as it ran. It was sort of slow and held me transfixed for a minute watching it. It was also very silent. It made no sound as it ran. I went into my dad's office and got up to follow it to see what in the world was it. But it was gone. Sounds like trickstery fae behavior to me. That's the thing about fairies, is that they definitely have a trickstery kind of low key vibe. Okay. I thought for a while that it had been a hallucination until years later when I was telling some people, I'm fixing my lipstick, about it, and my little sister said she had seen the same thing. Whoa. See, confirmation with someone else in the family always nails it and helps. Fixing lipstick again. Adela, just don't wear lipstick when you're filming. Also in the house, but in a different area. Also hallway, I think. So liminal spaces. Yeah, so it's kind of like this is the same thing with spirits and things like this. They'll come in what we call thresholds. Like it holds certain things. The threshold has crossed. The veil is crossed. However you want to see it. For me, it wasn't scary at all. Just really fascinating. I didn't believe in fairies. And I was Mormon, and I only really believed in the spirit realm as being people who had died, so I didn't know where to place this little guy. So I want to pause to let people know that when people ask me why I've gone to Utah so much, it's because Mormons and ex Mormons are much, much more open to the spirit realm. They do believe in it. And so they're comfortable with that more than people would realize. I told myself maybe it was like a creature from a different dimension that happened to cross into mine. I love that. And it was like frolicking through a meadow or something in its world because it just looked like it was frolicking and didn't seem to see me, but I don't know. Maybe it was some sort of nature, spirit, or fairy. Okay, now we're moving into leprechauns. Leprechaun, years ago when I was around 6 or 7 years of age, I think it may have seen something. It was on St. Patrick's Day and it was stormy in the evening and the power had gone out. It's funny because I can recall that the power had gone out on another separate St. Patrick's Day days too during other years, and I've always imagined it was a leprechaun. Leprechauns were playing pranks. I love the idea of leprechauns. I am a redhead, and one time in school, my teacher had told me that I resembled a leprechaun. I think that it's nice that her teacher said that, but I'm kind of not sure. Was it? Because of my hair and love that I always had a thing for St. Patrick's Day ever since. Anyway, on that particular evening, I was walking around the house with a flashlight and happened to with the flashlight and happened to shine it on the wall where the stairs were down. There was like half wall in front of the further wall where the stairs go down. As I was shining it there, I could swear I saw the perfect shadow of a classic leprechaun top hat with like a shamrock hanging off of it. But then I tried to shine it again in the same place and it was gone. It was brief, but I was sure I had seen it. I told myself through the years that I had only thought I saw it because there was no way leprechauns were actually real. But a couple of years ago, I started listening to people's stories and that there were people who had actually had experiences with fairies and all kinds of mythical creatures, and I started to kind of maybe believe that they could be real. I also seen the dandelion puff stick figure guide too, so I don't know. It had seemed real at the time, and there wasn't anything on the ledge of that half wall that could have caused the shadow, so maybe I saw something? Maybe it was my imagination? I don't know. But I'd like to think that the leprechauns were kind of playing with me on that night. I love it. I love this. I love it. Okay, now we're moving into one last story she has. I think that you might notice a theme with her, that she might be attracting certain kinds of energies, you know? So now we're moving to water or sprite. This is a more recent story. I'm now 43 years old. A few months ago in June of 2024, we were in the kitchen. Our fridge's ice machine had stopped working, which happened often. It would get blocked and stuck, so we'd have to take it out and break the ice that was getting stuck and empty the tray and then put it back in to get it working again. Anyway, I was in the kitchen with Gabe and pulled out the ice tray out to dump it and clear it, and I was about to do that. I reached my hand into the ice tray and there was a bottle of Sprite in the tray. I asked Gabe if he had put it there, but he said he hadn't. I asked my kids if they had done it, but they said they hadn't either. The tray was not really easily accessible for anything to just randomly fall into it, and we didn't typically put Sprite in the freezer, so it was pretty strange. I was trying to think of how it could possibly have gotten into it, but if no one in my family had done it, just didn't make sense. My husband pointed out it was funny because Sprite is the name of type of fairy, and I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. So maybe the fairies were playing a little trick on us. It was seriously so random to find a bottle of Sprite in a place that was not really that accessible. Kind of fun. We'll never know for sure if it was fairy, but it was fun to think it might have been. That's all for now. Thank you so much. I love your show. Thank you, Julene. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, we had a lot to talk about. We had a lot to cover. So let's just get to it. What did I have to say to Julene? What was going on with fairies and leprechauns lurking around? Okay, I have Julene, but I had her before. And
Mm.
we had, of course, surprise, surprise, technical difficulties. Some of it could be us, but it could also be the fairies fucking with us, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we've decided to go with that. Because it's more fun, and it could be both. I mean, to tell you the truth, I have had this happen before, and it wasn't difficult. So what happened was she had on a headset that had a mic, and then she has a regular mic in, and we're thinking it didn't know which one to pick up on. But I told her to turn the headset mic off. We went in, we went out. It didn't do anything, and it took like 3 tries. So we're going with the fairy theory
Yes.
because something's going on over at her house. Okay, so this is Julene. You heard me read her email. We're going to get into it. And I talked to her about this on the first recording where it really looked like I would, like when I previewed it, because I got scared she wasn't recording on a heat take 2.
Yeah.
I went in and I kind of was bothering her about her name. So let's go over it again. She had told me you were named. First of all, welcome back for the 4th
Thank
time.
you. Appreciate it.
And I think I'm not sure if you're in the mic or if you're in your regular mic, but we don't care. We're not gonna care.
Okay.
But you said you were named after your mom's friend or something,
Yes. Mhm.
and she's still here because we talked about. I said in my family it's superstitious to name after the living, and you were like, "Oh, you thought that was interesting because it was just kind of normal." Like, "Oh, your mom liked her name. Was that it, or was it that they're that close?"
Yeah, I guess they were just that close. My mom had a lot of kids, so we had 7 kids, so they had to come up with a lot of
Oh,
so
she's like she's like shopping and she's like, "I don't know. Let's see.
I was
What's
number
around here?"
5, so she's just like,
She's tired. Listen, I only have 1 and I'm tired. I don't How did
"Uh-huh,
your mom do 7 children?
I have no idea." I
Have
have
you
2
ever
and that
asked
well.
her? Yeah.
I have, but I don't know. She just
She
did.
just like she just said I'm just going to like wing it. If
Yeah,
what
I guess
happens
so.
happens. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's not easy. 7
No.
children? Didn't she
Mhm.
just wanna say, "No, forget it, no more kids"?
She kept wanting them. She said every time she would have one, she would feel like there's someone that still needs to come, is what she would say. So until the last one was born, and then she's like, "Well, we're done."
Wow!
Yeah,
Did she start young?
yeah. She was okay. So they were. My mom was 18 when she got married.
Okay,
A
that
couple
was
days from turning
right
19,
what I was seeing. I was like, "She's gotta be, like" didn't know what
but
she
like
was
they
like
didn't have babies until 4 years later. Like, she had a hard time
Okay.
getting pregnant
Well,
for a
she's
while.
still like
But
22 or something,
she was
right?
young, but she was
She's
pumping
still
us
young.
out pretty quick. Like, the first few
Mhm.
of us were, like, 15 months apart, I think, the first 5 of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I just always get amazed, but definitely what age did she, like, finish?
Hmm.
Do you know? What was the last one?
Let's see. So I think it was 1987 was her last one, and she was born in 1954, so I don't know. I can't do math that quick, but
Okay, so that
what do you
was
think?
if she was born in 1954 and she was but it doesn't matter when she was born. She was 22 when she had them, right?
Probably when she started, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, if she was born in 1954 at 22, it would have been 78 or something,
Yeah, with the
79.
first one, yeah. Well, the
So
first one
she
had
got
her
them
when she was
done.
78, so
She kind of had a baby every year almost.
yeah. Until after me, there was 2 years between me and my little sister.
Okay.
So and then 2 boys at the end. So 5 girls, 2 boys.
I would say, like, because don't think I can do the math either, guys. But let's
Mm-mm.
say it's 10 years. So by the time she was almost 40, she was done
Yeah,
having babies.
probably, yeah. Insane.
Everyone at home's yelling at me. You're right, guys. Sorry. She was like in her 30s.
Oh,
Like if she started at 22 and it took her like let's say 10 years, she was like almost 35.
yeah, dang.
Can you imagine having 7 kids by 35?
No,
By the
no.
way, everyone, I started at 40. So, but when you're young, your body just doesn't feel it
Yes.
as much. I'm telling you, listen, ladies, you can definitely have a child older for sure. But you
Mhm.
have to know there's always like something you're a give and take on. If you have children early, you kind of may not have all of your, lessons of life learned and you're just kind of winging
Mhm.
it and you know
Yep.
what I mean? You're not thinking it through. So that's the price you pay for having early. If you have children late and you have all the wisdom and everything, but
Yeah.
your body doesn't bounce back as well.
Yeah, give and take.
So you just gotta pick your poison. You gotta pick your poison.
Mhm. Yep.
The bottom line is being a mom is no small feat,
No.
period. Whether you have
Mhm.
2, whether you have 1, whether you have 7,
Yes.
I think statues should be risen in honor
Yeah,
of women
I think
having
so.
either having babies or even being friends or aunties because
Yeah,
we make the world go round.
yeah,
That's just what I have to say.
absolutely. Mhm.
Don't you think? I
Yes,
think women
definitely.
should be a lot more, like, revered.
Yes.
Anyway, we went on a rant, but I
Yes.
think that's kind of amazing. I'm always fascinated with that. Okay,
Mhm.
so now I get it. Your mom's like, Julene, that's yeah,
Yep.
okay. Number
Have a
5
friend named
is
Julene. Yep.
done. She's like, stamp.
Yep.
So you're kinda like not a middle child. You're a little bit of
Oh, I
you're
am.
kind of a I
Let's
know, but you're kinda closer to younger child.
I'm right smack in the middle. So I have 3 older sisters and then a younger sister and 2 brothers. So I'm, like, right in the middle.
I guess you are kinda right in the middle with 7.
Yeah,
Wow,
crazy.
crazy. Okay, let's get to her email. She's like, "Enough about me, Adele. I didn't come on here for all of that." So, let's get to the fairy sightings.
Yeah.
I'm doing this new thing. I wanna try it out, but I, like, wanna add a little ambiance early on.
Yes.
So, the fairy
Very
sightings,
fun.
take me through 1213.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I this happened in my parents' house. I was like 12 or 13. I'm not sure exactly how old. But I was
Mhm.
just sitting in that room and I it's at the end of the hallway. So there's a hallway going down and then it ends at my room. And then there's a room on one side and a room on the other side. So
Okay.
3 rooms all kind of at the end of the hall, doorways. So I was in just kind of the door was open. I was sitting in my bed facing the doorway, and this little creature just kind of comes across, and it had to have been from where it was coming from. It had to have kind of come through a wall. So it just kind of
Oh.
runs just really gracefully across the doorway, and it just looked so graceful, like almost like a little ballerina kind of movements, running across.
Mhm.
And I was just transfixed for a minute just watching it. It was about, okay, so like, 8 to 10 inches tall, and
Okay.
it had just a stick figure body, like it was a stick figure, but
Okay.
and then like a
Kind of like if
dandelion.
it was made out of like sticks from the forest almost?
Well, except that it didn't, not exactly. No, it was just very
Okay. No.
straight. Yeah, more like draw a
Oh.
stick figure,
I see what you're saying. Okay,
Uh-huh.
gotcha.
And then it had a kind of a dandelion puff head, like the ones where you make a wish on, the dandelion
Yeah.
puff. And that was its
Mhm.
head. I didn't notice a face or anything, and it wasn't looking towards me, or at least if it was, I wouldn't have been able to know because it has no face. And it just kind of ran across, and it didn't seem to notice me. It just kind of, almost like it's frolicking through the meadow or something, just kind of ran across into my dad's office. And so and it kind of had like almost like a little bit of light around it, kind of thing, like almost not a ton of light, but it was very distinct. Like it wasn't like this thing where it's like this blurry thing that kind of goes across or something. It was very distinct. And
Okay.
so I'm watching it and I'm just kind of transfixed for a second, but then like it goes into my dad's office, and then I got up to see what it was, and it was just gone. Like I went into his office, looked around, there was just nothing in there. So that was,
Okay. So my question to you that everybody usually, wants to we think about when we think of these things, because I
uh-huh.
know like reading what you wrote, you're like it wasn't scary, you were kind of worried like
Mhm.
did I have a hallucination? So you're being very
Yeah,
like kind of logical for a 12, 13 year
yeah.
old. Was there anything you were reading or watching at the time, because that's
No,
always kind of a question people have? No.
no,
So this was just
nothing.
brand new to you.
Nothing. I would never come up with something like that in my head.
Okay, that's good, because there's some kids are like really artsy and they kind of live in fantasy world, and that
Yeah.
can influence. So I
And
just
if I
want to.
had, I think I would have imagined like an actual fairy or something,
Yeah,
this is just,
exactly.
but
You would have been. You're
I wouldn't come
not.
up with this. It was so strange.
You would have been like, I would have come up with something a lot prettier
Yeah,
and
something that made a little bit more
fantastical.
sense.
Yeah, not this. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, so now let's get to the leprechaun. Now, before you get into the leprechaun, I just want to tell you something that I think you'll
Uh-huh.
think is interesting, and everyone should think is interesting. Have you ever been to a psychic fair before?
No, I haven't.
No. Okay. What state do you live in? You don't have
In
to say
Utah.
the city. Utah. Oh, you're in Utah.
Yeah.
Oh, I come to Utah all the time.
I know. I wish that I had realized that sooner, because like
I
I
know.
started watching you around October, and so I didn't realize you come for seances and stuff. I'll have to try to do it
I
next year.
do. I come quite a bit. I used to come a lot, but I'll definitely be coming back to
Yeah.
Utah, and I'm real
Good.
familiar, mostly with Salt Lake and those areas. But
Yeah.
I do. I used to go to Tree Mountain, but I mostly go to Salt Lake now.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a lot of kind of magical shit in Utah for sure. There's some things going on
I
in
kind of think
Utah.
maybe there is, because I've
Yeah,
actually, listening to your podcast, a few of them were from Utah, and a
a
lot of
lot. Yeah.
them had kind of like the fairy kind of things going on. And there's a guy who does a fairy
Hmm.
like walk in Provo, which is just a little south of,
Really?
yeah, he does like and it's at night, he does like a fairy walk, and kind of like a ghost walk, like get ghost tour. It's like a fairy
Oh,
tour.
right.
So I
That's
haven't gone at night
cool.
yet because I'm kind of scared to go at night, but
Yeah, I don't blame you. In Provo, like I've been to Provo because I have a friend who does hair there, and I drove from Salt Lake. I didn't realize it was that long of a drive at
uh-huh.
night. And I
Oh,
was like, where am I? Like, it's getting really quiet out here. I was like, and I was like, it is really not Salt Lake anymore. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's pretty naturey there. So it makes sense. Okay. Well, if you they do have psychic fairs actually in Utah, but you have to
Okay.
go to like a lot of different shops. But they have these like I used to go to them when I first started reading, I was kind of like interested in seeing other readers and stuff.
Mhm.
In LA, they have a lot of them. And I went to one years and years ago. I would say like when you have kids, you kind of gauge time before and after them.
Yeah. Mhm.
I would say this was like in the beginning of me readings, maybe about 17, 18 years ago. And there was a guy who was a leprechaun reader.
What?
And this is the thing about psychic fairs, everyone.
Huh.
It can get a little interesting. You gotta be careful because
Hmm.
some people
Yeah.
take advantage and they're just doing all kinds of crazy things. But I remember he looked nervous because he wrote a book about it. So I wonder if I think I should probably for this podcast look up and see if this guy's book's still out there.
Might be
He had
interesting.
books for right. I want to know. He had books for sale, and he said he was offering leprechaun readings.
That's so cool.
And he was dressed in green with a hat, and he had I think he had a wig. I'm not sure if it was his actual hair. And I was being really judgy, and I was like, okay, leprechaun guy, right?
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, I talk to the dead, and I say it, you know what I mean? I was like, that's just as weird to people. So I kind of was like very curious. I almost got a reading from him just to see
why
that
not?
maybe he sees things other people don't see. Yeah, who knows? Like, he didn't look like he wasn't being like vocal and weird about. He seemed very nervous, like he knew he was putting himself out there. Yeah. Leprechaun reading guy. We got to find you. I'm going to research.
That's really cool. I'll have to look that up.
Right? Okay, we're going to look it up.
Utah?
No. This was in LA. This is in LA.
That's right. You said LA. Okay.
Yeah, this was in LA. Yeah, and I don't know where he lived, because when people do psychic fairs, they can come from all over, and who knows where he's from. Yeah. Okay, so take me through your leprechaun experience.
Okay. So this was when I was a lot younger. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. And it seemed like always around that time of year, and always on St. Patrick's Day, for a few years in a row at least, it would be raining and storming, and the power would always go out. And and this time, it was on St. Patrick's Day. The power had gone out, and I was walking around the house just kind of with a flashlight, and I was in the kitchen and just kind of like shining my flashlight around, and towards the back of the kitchen, there's like a half wall, and stairs go down kind of behind the half wall. And then there's like a wall behind it. And so I was shining it past that, just kind of looking around, and I could swear I saw the perfect shape of a leprechaun hat. And and it was just briefly, when I passed it over to look at it again, it was gone. And I don't remember if there was anything even on the ledge that would have been casting that shadow. So, and I don't know. Like, I always thought for a while, I'm like, I saw a leprechaun, But as I got older, I'm like, that's ridiculous, because I don't really believe in that kind of stuff.
Right.
As I've gotten older, and I've just heard different people's experiences, I'm just like, maybe it was something, and it was just kind of maybe they were playing with me, because I liked leprechauns. I liked the idea of them. Like, I would imagine that they were the ones who made the power go out, and being a redhead,
makes it a lot more fun. Yeah, and you're a redhead, so it's kind of fitting your
And so one of my teachers had pointed out that leprechauns kind of have red hair and they look like me, and so I just really loved that, and I've always loved St. Patrick's Day, and so I love the idea of their kind of extra energy and playing pranks on people. I think it's just fun to me, And so I was like, maybe
you
it was
relate
something.
to it. Yeah. Okay. And there was like nobody else,
No. And
we just got to make sure
where my family would have been. Like, nobody else was around, and so.
And how old were you again?
I was young. I was probably 6 or 7, maybe.
Okay. And did one of your teachers tell you this at that time, or was it later in life?
I'm not entirely sure. It was around that time, though, at least.
And my last question is, why was the lights always going off around St. Patrick's Day?
I don't know. It was stormy. It gets really stormy in March in Utah. And it
It
just
does.
happened several years in a row that the power would go out. It's just I
Yeah.
imagined in my little girl head that it was probably leprechauns making the power go out or something.
Yeah.
But that was the only time
Yeah.
I saw something, and it was pretty distinct. The little hat that I saw, well, it looked big, like it was kind of stretched out from a shadow on the wall.
Mhm.
But it was just the perfect
Yeah.
top hat.
Okay. And then, okay, so let's move to the water sprite. Take me through this story.
Okay, so this is pretty recent.
Okay.
This happened this past summer in June.
Okay.
We have this fridge. The ice machine always breaks, and it always gets clogged up. We have to take it out, get all the ice out, and then put it
Mhm.
back in. And so you have to take out the little box and everything. And so this time it had gotten clogged up again. I'm just in the kitchen with my family, and I think I was pouring it into a bowl, the ice into a bowl, and this bottle of Sprite comes out with it. And it was just, I didn't put it in there. And I asked my husband if he had put it in there, and he said he hadn't. And I asked my kids, and they both said that they hadn't. And I don't think they even know how to take the ice box off of the fridge to fix it, to put it into. And it's not something that we would do. Just we don't regularly put Sprite in the freezer. And
Mhm.
it wouldn't have accidentally fallen in because there's just not a big enough hole even for it to get into the ice box. So it was just kind of something kind of strange.
Is Sprite a drink people in your house drink a lot of?
Yeah, we do have
I
Sprite.
know Utah and the soda. Like you
Yeah.
guys like your soda. I do
Yes.
miss what is it, Swigs? I do miss it. I am looking for them
Yeah.
to open one up here in LA.
They have
Anyway,
been
side
spreading.
note. What'd you say?
They have been spreading out, I think. So it's possible they'll
Yeah,
start
I know.
appearing in new
It is
places.
possible.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. Side note, tried it, immediately fell in love, and
Mhm.
immediately had to get another at the airport the next day.
Oh.
And was trying to make it at home and it did not work.
Aw.
Anyway, so your family does drink this, and how old are
Yeah.
your kids?
My oldest is 17 and then 13.
Okay, so they are old enough that they could have put it in there
Yeah.
and possibly forgot.
Possibly, but it's not a normal thing. Because you
They don't
normally want to
normally
keep
store
the
it in
ice.
there.
You want to keep the ice sanitary because you don't want to stick hands and things in there. I don't know, but I mean that is possible. But
Have they ever done
they're
that
pretty honest
before or
kids.
since?
No, it's
Okay,
not something they do.
these are good questions.
Yeah,
Okay, we're gonna get, and I think that's the end of the stories, right? That was
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Those
Okay, we're
three.
gonna get into it. And just for everyone listening, if you don't know what Swigs is, it's called dirty soda, and it comes from the Mormon church believing that you can't drink caffeine. I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and we weren't allowed to drink caffeine, but that also included soda. We weren't allowed to drink any soda with caffeine in it.
Yeah.
And that include Coke, Dr. Pepper, and all this. So I didn't understand this until Jason, shout out to Jason if you're listening, and he's in Utah.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't understand. I was like, it's the caffeine. And he said, no, it's about hot caffeine. I did not get that.
Well, we can't have iced coffee or tea either.
So, but soda is a yes. Does anyone really know why?
For some reason, no, nobody knows why. It's
That's
just
how it is.
one of the
That's how it is.
revelations. Mm-hmm.
That's how it is. We had a prophet. It was a woman prophet. She said we couldn't have caffeine. So period. So we couldn't have hot or cold caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I don't really like Coke and stuff because I grew up on root beer and Sprite and 7-Up because they don't have caffeine.
Yeah.
But as we all know, it didn't work because I'm a coffee fiend.
Yeah,
so,
same.
Ha ha ha. Didn't work, did it? No. But I will say, I think it's like really clever. They were like, "Well, let's try this thing called soda." Where we, so yeah, they'll put all these flavors that you would never think of. I was like,
Mhm,
"What? This doesn't make sense." And then I got like a 12 ounce, and Jason
mhm.
was like, "Nobody does that. Like, what do you do?" I go, "Well,
Yeah, you
I don't
gotta
know what
get a
I'm getting
bigger one.
into."
Yeah.
And then I drank it down. Let me tell you, it could be very addicting.
Yes. It
It's very good, you guys. It's like drinking. My first thought was like here in LA, people would take that home and throw some liquor in there
uh-huh.
for sure. I'm sure they do
Yeah.
in Utah as well. I know Utah. I know you guys do. Okay, let's get not tricking me. I've been there enough. Okay. All right, let's get into it. So I feel
Okay.
like the first fairy one.
Uh-huh.
This is very fitting to fairies.
Uh-huh.
They tend to kind of be almost alien looking,
Mhm.
like just not what people like, what we all would like, which would be like, the Disney
Yeah,
fairy
the Tinkerbell.
version.
Yeah.
Tinkerbell. Yeah. But even Tinkerbell, if you notice, she's always depicted as being a little bit, a little bit honorary, a little bit
Yeah, she
trickstery.
is. Uh-huh.
That is how fairies are. They're very trickstery. That's their
Mhm.
whole energy. Um, I feel like the fact that you saw it like a stick figure, even though I know you're saying it was like a stick figure, I feel the vision I get is kind of like foresty stick. It's like a way to kind of blend in to the forest. I
Yeah.
believe fairies and fae are very much earth aliens. That's just how I
Yeah.
see it. I believe there's many, many aliens, and what I mean by aliens is just not human, basically beings.
Oh, okay.
And they all just as much as like my cat sitting right here right now. If someone were to walk in this room and see me and the cat, we would look completely different from each other, and it would be bewildering to another being of like, how are these two living beings
Yeah.
so different? Right? So if someone said, I saw two aliens, one look was sitting there with fur all over it, it would probably sound
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And the
Mhm.
other was sitting there, and you know what I mean? So as much as there's different creatures of us, I believe there's different creatures in those in the other realm. So
Yeah.
I feel like the one you saw, what I do believe that was more real. And I do it kind of because of the fact that you weren't really looking for it. It just came out of the blue, and and I do for sure have this strong feeling that these types of beings appear in front of kids all the time because kids kind of believe in magic. Like if an adult saw that, they'd probably start screaming, but kids see it and they're like, that was weird. You know what I mean? Like adults like literally lose their shit on anything, like a door opens, a light
Yeah.
flickers. And so I feel like with kids, they tend to allow to be seen because
Oh, and I
also
forgot.
people don't really believe you.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
forgot to mention that my little sister actually saw the same thing. Um, so, like, a
That's
few years
right.
later,
You
we
did
were
say that in the
talking,
letter.
and I mentioned that I had seen it, like, years later, and she said that she had seen the same thing, my little sister, just upstairs in a different
Yeah,
area.
that's very significant. That's okay. That's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like well, we'll get into that part, but yeah, I feel like it was very friendly. It knew
Yeah.
what it was doing. It wasn't having any problem letting you see it, but it wasn't
Yeah.
going to interact. And the
Mhm.
feeling I get is it's a little bit like come follow me. Like if you were that curious and you followed it, it would have been fine. That's how fairies also are. They don't come take you as much as people think, where they kind of get you to follow them or to
Kinda like
get
Will-o'-the-Wisp
curious
or
about them. Kind
something.
of a little bit. Yeah, like a little bit like the rabbit that goes down the rabbit hole type
Yeah.
of thing, come follow me. Um,
Mhm.
but I feel like it was that feels more real. It's very hard with fairy because people do have a hard time believing, but I believe they're just a different type of alien
Yeah.
being. It's like they're the earth. Well, people call them like the earth spirits, basically, or
Yeah.
earth entities or whatever you want to call it.
Nature
And
spirit. Yeah.
nature spirits. Are you very connected to nature?
I love nature. Yeah, in some ways.
It's but you're not like someone who spends time in it a
Not
lot.
constantly,
Like, you know what
no.
I mean? Right,
Yeah.
right, right. That's what I mean by
Yeah.
connected. Like, are you someone who, yeah. I feel like it wasn't about that. My sense is it had more to do with that you were a kid and they tend to show up better for children. The second one with the leprechaun, I definitely, my first, when I even read this, I feel like that was more your little kid brain kind of
Uh-huh.
seeing something, because I feel like you were very influenced by the time of year and these weird
Yeah.
things keep happening with electricity. I feel like you were, my read on you is that you're pretty
Mhm.
good at like like finding a magical nice way to self-soothe. Like I just don't see you as
Mhm.
the type of kid that if you were scared about something you tell someone. It's like you kind of hold it your stuff in, so
Mhm.
it's like your way of just kind of making it
Hmm.
fun and not
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like it just, I feel like my read on you is that, some kids are like run right, to their mom or to their dad, or they go running to anyone, go, I'm scared, I'm this. And I feel like you kind of were more of a child that kind of dealt things internally. And this was your way
Yes.
of,
Uh-huh.
I think it just kind of made you feel better. Like, okay, this is just something magical happening. So I don't have to feel scared about it.
Okay.
Like you
Yeah.
turned it positive and into negative. Doesn't mean that I do still believe like leprechauns and those types of things are different types of beings as well. I feel like it's been kind of, there's been stuff added to it,
Yeah.
with through storytelling.
Yeah.
But I do believe people who see little creatures like that, there is something to that. I don't feel like that one. It just wasn't my sense. It felt like more like smart little kid
Yeah.
brain figured out a way to self-soothe herself to like
Yeah,
make it
that's
fun,
interesting. Yeah.
because
That's
I
a
feel like you're
possibility.
that type. Yeah, that's just
Yes.
my read on you.
Being like a middle child, I definitely had to kind of deal with my own stuff by myself a lot. So
Yeah,
that
that
does
makes sense too.
make
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, to be fair, I know everyone always likes to label things, but to be fair, there's a lot of middle children that go the opposite. They do anything they can to get attention.
Yeah.
It doesn't, not all not everybody handles things the same. Some
Yeah.
middle children will just like stand on their head to get attention. I just feel like you particular don't like
Yeah.
to bother people and you tend to handle things a little bit more on your own. And
Yeah.
I feel like you just
Yeah.
found I don't think it was conscious. I don't think you consciously did anything. I
Yeah.
think you just,
Mhm.
oh, it's a leprechaun. That's what's creating the lights go out. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. St. Patrick's Day. It's
Yeah.
all good. We're having a good time over here.
Mhm.
So I feel like
Sure.
it was actually a really positive spin on it.
Mhm.
The last one with the sprite is very interesting because, of course, logically, I feel like there it could, kids, people do things and they
Yeah,
forget, or maybe you had
that's
somebody, or
true.
you could have had a family member over. However, with that said, and I just want everyone to know that you can have both. You can have the logical understanding of something,
Yeah.
but the way that realm works is not the way people think. It's
Yeah.
not so much that they put the sprite in there as
Yeah.
it's much to kind of get your attention. Because let's say this is my feeling. Somebody came over and did that. Somebody who isn't normally in your family and probably forgot about it. Somebody who you go, I would never do this, but
Uh-huh.
someone else might. It could have been like a party, or that's what I feel.
We did have a couple
But
over with their kids, and a day or two before that, so
yeah,
possibly.
I'm saying, like, I just feel like you are very neat and tidy. If you guys aren't watching, I'm looking behind her, and it's like beautiful behind her. And I could just get a read. There's some people you could tell they did it on purpose. Some people I read people, obviously. And I feel like she's the type that was like, would never put Sprite in her ice thing. And then there's some people who will. So I
Yeah.
feel like, as rude as that might be, I feel like they might have done that. But here's the thing. The way that realm works is they try to kind of draw your attention to something. Like, in other words, they don't make things always appear or happen, as it is to kind of influence you to think about things. So I do feel around you there is like a fey energy happening around you.
Yeah.
So to kind of draw your attention to that, you could have just been like, well, that's weird. That's Sprite in there.
Yeah.
Did this couple do this? Did someone else do it? I don't know. What the hell? That was weird, and let it go. But something kind of made you want to think of the
Yeah.
fairy energy, because
Yeah.
I feel that's something you're more connected to.
Yeah.
You have to remember that there's some people who are really like connected to the spirit world.
Mhm.
Some people are really connected to whatever is in the cosmos.
Yeah.
Some people are connected, right? I feel like you're very connected to that fey energy. I really feel that from you.
Yeah.
Like,
I
even
feel
like you
that
guys
too.
don't see, even when I'm looking, like, you guys can't see her, but if you watch the YouTube video, even her background feels very soothing, and she has pretty flowers, and it's just, there's an energy about you. Now, what comes with that is trickstery energy, like you
Uh-huh.
said, and they like to play. So I feel like this was kind of more you getting influenced to think about it. That is how all of those energies work. Spirits work, aliens work, fairies work. They kind of
Yeah.
influence thought,
Yeah.
right? So let me give you an example for everyone to be clear. Last night, yesterday, and I shared this on my Instagram. It was my kiddo's birthday, and we went to medieval times, and I don't really have any. All my family members have passed. My mother, my father, both my mothers, and my father. I don't have any of my family, there.
Yeah.
And when we were coming home, with my mother-in-law was driving. I mean, I have my mother-in-law, but my family. I heard, "Why don't you turn the music on?"
Huh.
And I was like, "Hey, can you turn the music on?" And she always usually plays music. Turn the music on. Song playing is the song that my mom always sends me immediately.
Mhm.
It's the first song that comes on. It just, as soon as the radio came on, that song was playing. It's the
Wow.
song she's been sending to me since she died when I was 17.
Wow.
And so that's how it works. So it could be like, hey, notice that Sprite is like fae, it's like fairy, it's like trying to get your
Yeah.
attention. What I would
Yeah.
say to you is maybe play with it a little bit more, because I feel that it's not so much the forest and nature, but I feel like you're very connected to something fantastical. I feel like you like that. You're very
I do.
creative.
I do. Spot on. Yep.
Yeah. Do
I
you do
have
stuff
fairy gardens
creative?
around my house and stuff.
God, where is my wand drop? Where I'm gonna cue it up. I'm gonna cue up while she talks while she talks about it. Tell us about your fairy garden. What
Um,
is up with that?
I think I love the idea of bringing in the magical into life.
Aw.
Because I feel
Okay,
like,
there we go.
life is just stressful. We need more magic in our
Yes.
lives. And so I just thought it
Yeah.
might be kind of fun, maybe to kind of share with the neighborhood. And I have neighbors who stop by and look at my garden all the time as they're walking by. I'm on a corner house, and so
Okay.
I just thought I love putting that energy out there, I guess, of the
Mm-hmm.
magical. I put like fairy lights and colors and everything that come out at night.
Knew it. I cannot find my wand drop, but I will find it. I will add it
Yes,
later.
completely
Let
spot
me
on.
tell you.
So good job.
Let me let me tell you something. That's my feeling with you. That's what I'm trying to say to you. So
Mhm.
just as much as the
Yeah.
dead does things with me, like I
Uh-huh.
shared with everybody, I went to ER and everything. When I'm in like the hospital, I'll be rolling down and I'll see all these spirits talking to me, and I'm like, yeah, am I gonna be
Yeah.
okay? They're like, hey, hi. Just as much as I draw that to me, I feel like you're drawing those things to you. And so
Okay.
I would implore you to just do it a little
Keep it up.
bit more consciously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you
Mhm.
have the fairy garden. Maybe
Yes.
start doing things going like, okay, fairy garden. Okay, fairies. I'm like, here's your little designated spot, or here's your little, and just play with
I do.
it.
I have a little
And
tree where I give them offerings as well.
oh my God.
In the backyard,
Okay.
it's like a special tree. So
So besides the special tree, and I know the offerings is a thing, but instead I want you to amp it up to like just as much as I tell people, hey, tell the aliens you want to talk to them, you tell the fairies like it's okay to kind of show yourself a little bit more.
okay.
Because fairies will be like they hide, they do the
Mm,
little trickery, they
yeah.
peek around or they pop out here. But if you are friendly and you really get them, they'll want to appear towards you in the way that you've had. And it will usually be when you least expect it.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, that's what it's
I
always
would just kind
been.
of work
Mhm.
with the fae because they're
Okay.
very, that's why I sit here into nature. Everybody sitting, listening to us at home, don't you think she should have told me she had a fairy garden when I said, is she into nature?
I guess I just didn't put that together.
I was like, okay, I guess I didn't hit that one right. Okay. Okay. That's why I just had this feeling that that's what I love about your energy. It does feel like somebody who goes, there's enough darkness in the world. Let's bring the
Mhm.
light.
Yeah,
And
just
the
lighthearted fun, you
right?
know? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But it's more than lighthearted fun. I think it's bringing the light.
Mhm.
Because the thing about fairies is they're not just like silly. Their energy isn't like, oh, we're just here to be silly. They
Yeah.
do know what's going on in the world and they know the darkness, but they
Yeah.
and they want to bring in kind of the magic.
Yeah.
What you
Mhm.
see is may not what it may appear, kind of
Yeah.
thing like that.
Mhm.
That's their vibe.
Definitely.
Hmm.
And I love that vibe. So
Yeah, it's funny because for me that vibe's always like just weirds me out because I had an experience because I had an experience where I was sleeping and I swear I think my son used to see them because he would be like
Oh.
staring, like watching things like
Uh-huh.
this, and
Mhm.
you know how you see cats do that
Yes.
sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And of course, when he was little, I had in his room painted. I mean, kind of like you, I might have conjured it fairies all over his room and a tree and all this magical stuff because I was
Yeah.
trying to create that light energy. But one time I was sleeping and I turned to my left, and I might have told this story before, and it wasn't me turning. It was like out of a movie where you just probably would creep people out in the movie, but where it's like just my spirit's turning, but my
Hmm.
body's staying the same.
Interesting. Uh-huh.
I could feel that it wasn't like I turned my head. It was like my spirit body turned. And I saw this little thing with wings and it kind
Wow.
of had like an alien face, but it
Uh-huh.
wasn't pretty.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't like you said. It wasn't like I was like, oh, it wasn't like
Mhm.
Tinkerbell. And
Yeah.
it said, "Do
Mhm.
you want to come play with us?" And I went, "No,
No.
no." And it said,
Yeah.
I said, and they said, "You sure?" And I said, "No, I don't even like you guys. I don't even like you guys." And he said, "Yes, you do." Yeah. And I went, "No, no, go away, go
Why
away."
would they
And
look
I
like
woke up.
that?
Yeah. I mean, it had like cool wings. It had
That would
very
be really cool though to see that.
like cool wings, like the wings that you
Yeah.
see. It kind of reminded me of, it's not butterfly wings, but kind of more
Like moth or
yeah, moth. That's what I was going to
okay.
say. Kind of
Yeah.
moth but rounded instead
Okay.
of pointed. That's exactly. They were see-through and there was
Oh.
several of them,
Uh-huh.
and the face
Wow.
just wasn't pretty. So it
Yeah, he
wasn't like a
was
pretty face.
yeah. Like, "No, I'm fine. No, thanks."
Yeah, I was like, but they are kind of trickery that way. Like I kind of felt
Mhm.
like it was trying to get me to go with it, and I was like, didn't feel comfortable. But
Yeah,
it didn't feel like dangerous. I just felt like, just
okay.
tell me what you want. If you tell me what you want, then we can talk about it. And that's kind of fey to me. They don't
Mhm.
always just say up front what they want. But
Yeah, and that's what
I
makes me
kind of get
nervous
that
about
vibe.
them. Yeah. That's what
I
makes me
know. And
nervous
that
about connecting with them because people have had these kinds of experiences. So
mhm.
that's what makes me nervous about it. So I'm like, I'm really tentative, you know?
No, all you got to do is the one thing I have learned with them. If you're very, just like all the beings, just be very blunt about what you're good with, what you're not good with,
Uh-huh.
and it'll be fine.
Okay.
Because they do have laws they have to adhere to the human, connection.
Yeah.
So if you say, hey, you can't just be doing like stuff to totally weird me out, they'll be okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I
Okay?
listen to you or
Yeah, just say that's why I said the more you're what the last thing I'll say about this is that the thing with Fae is they don't tend to be respected, so they're a little bit honorary because
yeah.
on the list of things like angels are and
Mm,
everyone or people are focused on like the bad stuff or they're focused
yes.
on spirits and and
Yes.
aliens, but they're like kind of not taken seriously
Yes, exactly.
and they are the ones that kind of help with the earth.
Yeah.
When I one more story I'll say this to ease your mind. When I one time I went to a school that was very they dealt it's a different type of school. It's a Waldorf school and they actually were into gnomes and fairies and all this kind of stuff. We used to make stuff. And one time I wanted my son originally to go there, but he didn't like it because he's more science minded. Um, but when I wanted him to go there, I was thinking about him going there. I went to the garden that they have and I said, hey, I said, I'm going to be respectful to the fairies. Can you guys do your magic and help me? These little things started flying around me and I kept trying to get my camera to capture them and they were
Uh-huh.
darting
Oh,
away from my phone. And I was like, that is really weird because normally like bugs don't know how to dart. Sorry. Am I supposed to not tell the story? Bugs don't normally dart away from the phone and they were
oh,
literally darting, wouldn't let me capture them. I couldn't capture them.
oh,
And
yeah.
of course, it did work. What I asked for them worked. But I remember going like, this feels very fake. And again, they had those little white, the same thing, but the face didn't, just they were so small.
Yeah.
And that's why I was trying to capture it.
Oh,
And there was several of them just started swarming around me.
so cool.
So I'm saying to you, like, talk to them in your garden in that kind of way. Don't just give them offerings. Just say, hey, let's try to make a connection. And I'll help you if you help me. That's kind of how the fairies work.
Mhm. Okay.
It's a give and take. Okay?
Yeah. That'll be
Let's see
fun.
what happens. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
have story number 2.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah. I really had fun. Thank you. Appreciate all your insights.
Yeah, sure. We love the story. I loved it. It was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So, like I said, I owe myself a wand drop. Wait, no, that's the 80s. That's the wand drop. It's the new wand drop. This is the new wand drop, but we can add a little 80s to my wand drop. Yeah, let's do a little 80s. I don't know. It's kind of a little diddly, but I don't know. All right, so the one drop is because I nailed it with her. I just had this feeling she felt very kind of earthly. So I didn't feel, as you could see, I didn't feel that the whole sprite thing didn't feel right to me. Listen, fairies are tricksters and they're silly, but they may leave like like a flower in the middle of a place. They may take your keys from you or something, but a whole Sprite bottle into the water, it's not really how it works, but they will bring your attention to that. So her husband kind of going, oh, you know what? I think this is very much like, kind of reminds me of fairy, sprite, fae, that type of thing. Absolutely. They may put that in your head, like, hey, notice that we're trying to get your attention. They'll kind of use things to kind of verify that they are around. But they can't like actually take that Sprite bottle and dump it into the ice. Does that make sense? So I didn't really see that. The first one I definitely felt was very Fae-like, and the leprechaun, which I love so much. And if you hear me talk about, uh, if you heard me talk about when I went to this psychic fair, and there was a leprechaun reader, which by the way, as we're on air, as I'm recording, I promised I'd look it up. Let me look up. Let's see if this guy still exists. Let's see. Leprechaun reader? Let's see. Leprechaun reader? Let's see if he exists. I'm going to ask leprechaun reader. Oh, it started recording me. Little fairies. I didn't press. Here we go. Leprechaun reader. Oh, Leprechaun Emergent Reader freebie? What is this? Looking for a Leprechaun Freddy. There is like some books. I think reader, it means it thought I meant like book. Okay, so let's do Leprechaun Tarot Reader. Oh, psychic reading. Let's do that. Psychic. Let's see if he still exists. Do you still exist? Psychic Leprechaun Reader. Let's see. Purple Garden Psychic. I don't see it. Leprechaun Elements. Leprechauns it's just talking about the elements are energetic with the element of the earth. Psychic reading. I'm just getting psychic readers. I wish I would know. I don't see anything. I don't know how any other way, because Magical Ireland persists leprechauns. Folklore of leprechauns said to be over 1,000 as the folklore. There's a lot of folklore. There's a lot of information about this, but Keen best no. It just isn't. It's not giving it to me. I mean, this was years ago. I'm going to try one more thing. Leprechaun Tarot card reader. Let's see what happens. Anything come up? Just tarot card readers, best tarot card readers. I don't see anything. But if you happen to find anything, please let me know. I do feel that there is something to that leprechaun energy. And I feel that if anything, the whole fairy type of energy is around her. And that has to do with the magic of the land. And she's very into that, obviously. It's like she's influenced by them, they're influenced by her. And that's just kind of how it works. So I feel like with the whole sprite thing, they were just trying to draw attention. The leprechaun, I feel like, was a little girl believing in the magic. It doesn't mean she might have not saw something, but I do feel like it feels more like she's influenced. The first one feels very much more legit to me because it was uncalled for. She's just sitting there. That's usually how these things work. You're just kind of doing your thing. You're not paying any attention. But when I said, like, I got a feeling somebody put the Sprite and didn't tell you, and she's like, oh, I did have some people over. It's not to say that they did or didn't, but those types of things tend to happen and you can find a logical explanation. But like I said, magic happens one, when you're not expecting it. Two, that realm will use things to grab your attention, as I told the story to her about my mom and the song. That's how it works. They influence your thoughts. So even if it's put into her husband's mind, like, hey, that's like Sprite and fairies, and it's kind of like reminding her to stay in touch. Some of us are connected to the earth realm, into that magic realm. Some of us are connected to the spirit realm. Some of us are connected to the all the elements, and that's kind of more what we deal with. We all have the things that kind of call our name. And I believe that leprechauns and fae and all these type of things are just non-human, which is alien, that of the earth. I feel like there's many different creatures and energies and elements we don't fully understand. So thank you so much, Julene, for writing in. She wrote her story in. She was new to my podcast, but she wrote, "Where is yours, everyone?" She wrote hers in. Where is yours? Because this is how I run this podcast. She was nervous when we came on. She never did a podcast. Most people haven't. And that's what I did. I made this podcast to be for real people, real stories. And I hope that you're enjoying this as much as me. Wanted to let everyone know on my Patreon, I have gotten into healing, physical healing. I'm kind of coming out of the closet and letting people know that I've always done medical intuitive readings in my readings. I can see into people's bodies, but I've been very scared about coming out with that too loudly because I want people to take responsibility and go to get medical help in from medical experts and not utilize holistic or psychics for skipping that, because I feel like it's very dangerous. I've seen dangerous things happen in this community because of that. However, now that I'm kind of coming out more to show people this is something I can do, I can see in the body, I'm getting kind of more into how to understand how to heal through heal the physical through understanding the spirit body and how the two can connect. You all of you know that I'm very big into science and very big into futuristic things and believe that AI is going to push us right into the future. However, I have posted a lot of that on my Patreon. People who are on my Patreon and the Sacred Scholar, there's a class waiting for you. People on my Patreon in general, I'm posting little things you're going to see. I'm going to start trickling little tidbits on the weekends probably. And this is a great way to support the work I do. The people who support my Patreon, I so appreciate it because it's another way to support my work. If you want a reading with me, you always know where to go. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Adele Levine, and on the House Medium Instagram, and I post on TikTok. But remember, we got to have a little bit of fae, a little bit of leprechaun, a little bit of magic. Follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your inner voice, and I'll see you soon.